Hello, everyone. So, uh, wow, where to begin? Thank you so much, first of all, for watching my first paywalled video. It really does. It means a lot to me. It is actually very important to me. So I want to take a moment to be serious and express my appreciation for that, first of all. And then what we're here to talk about is why I am leaving Japan. So for anyone who knows me, you'll know that I have been, I guess, a Japanophile or a weeb is kind of uh, one of the some of the language you could use for what I've been. But for me, it's just been like I've been in love with anime since I first encountered it at 8 years old, or younger than that, I guess. And then I started learning the language on my own at like 15 years old, and that start date is when basically when I first bought my own textbook to be able to actually study the structure of the language on my own. I also spent some time like even after becoming able to express my opinion. I spent about a year and a half when I went to college later in life, learning with the brand new language learners so that I could learn proper structure and in Japanese, being able to express yourself in polite forms and structures is part of the grammar, and it's a very important aspect of being able to be a competent speaker. So I very intentionally put myself in the beginners classes, and it paid off. I'm an excellent speaker of the language now. And so when I've had some very interesting reactions to my decision to leave, like the people around me who feel like I'm like there's a word in Japanese mottainai, and it basically means it basically means like a waste. Like they don't feel like I'm a waste. It feels they feel like I'm wasting some kind of opportunity in their mind, like something I'm doing like implies that there's like a waste that's created. And for me it's like, how the heck are you the one that thinks that there's some kind of waste here when I'm the one that spent like half my life preparing to come here? It's been a dream for like half my life. Anyway, we're gonna start some music here and we're gonna get into the real reasons why I am leaving Japan. So, and as always, or as as is the case for now, the music is from a wonderful game called Troubleshooter: Abandoned Children. If you're into strategy games, I highly recommend it. And just a quick note about our surroundings and the area right now. Like I'm in my room as always. I've just changed the direction I'm filming from so that I can use the sunlight as our natural lighting. And so you're seeing a bit of the mess, the remains of what I need to get rid of before I, pardon me, before I leave Japan. And so I mean, I started out not by, I've always attempted to buy things with an eye towards things I can use permanently. And so a lot of the things that I currently have in my backpack and a lot of things that I carry with me in general these days are things that I purchased maybe 5, 6, sometimes more years ago, which is, it's actually really edifying to feel. Anyway, let's get back to it. So, I hinted at this, or like I may have made this explicit in the description, but it's not as a direct result of the racism that I've experienced here that I'm leaving, and it has absolutely nothing, like zero, to do with my wife, who is still technically my wife, although she refuses to speak with me face to face. Like the last conversation we had, she said she would never divorce me. She would never give me a divorce until she got what she wanted out of the relationship. And then she refused to speak to me again, even when I tried to give her the thing she wanted. It was incredible. And so, so we'll get to those stories in other videos. For now, I'm going to talk about why I'm leaving Japan. And so for anyone who is caught up on One Piece, think of Kozuki Oden, and basically he just like his catchphrase before I don't want to reveal too much. His catchphrase before finding freedom from Wano Kuni was Taikutsu, which basically translates to like just so freaking boring. Like, I'm bored with Japan now. And what that really comes from is finally getting used to Japan. So Japan, I'm gonna put this very frankly, it has a frankly disgusting culture in so many ways. The PR game is super strong here, and as I do more videos, you'll get to hear more about like what it is that I'm talking about, what it is that inspires disgust, and fortunately for me, I'm actually really happy. Like that's one of the gifts that Japan has given to me, and we'll get to that. But let's start with taikutsu. Okay, so I lived in Toyohashi for 2-ish years, 2+ years, most of which was living together with my wife at her family's home. Her family's relatively well off. I learned this after arriving. Her family is relatively well off, so we had a small separate house on the property to ourselves. And all of that time I spent working, basically working to pay back her parents for the financial support that they gave to us, and working to try to be a good husband. Because even though I went into it very clear-eyed, I never made any eternal promises, it still was very important to me to never inspire regret for having decided to support me in any way. That's a very important thing to me in general. Anyway, so 2 years in Toyohashi, and then separated, like publicly separated, semi-publicly separated from my wife, and started living separately in Toyohashi. And then I found this wonderful city in which I now live, and decided to move here to a much smaller city. It's Shinshiro. Shinshiro Aichi, in case you feel like checking it out. The nature here is wonderful, the landscapes are wonderful, animals are wonderful, and the people are still human beings. They're still humans. And so, I'm as a black man, like as a black human being, one has to be prepared for racism to rear its ugly head at any moment and at every moment and anywhere we go. There is no escaping from anti-black racism. I have no illusions about that. Living in Japan, its form and its manifestations may have changed, but the racism is still there. Everyone's racist unless they are actively trying not to be racist, like unlearning racism, and even then it's still like it's what we're trained to be in our current society. Anyway, Japanese racism is super safe. Like, frankly speaking, I am still probably one of the safest black men on this planet because Japan has a super safe society. The rule of law here is basically absolute, and combine that with the natural herd mentality that's extremely strong in the Japanese, and most people don't break rules, even if they're stupid rules. If you put a sign somewhere and tell someone not to do something, 99.9% of people will just, like, it won't even occur to them as an idea to do the thing. It's incredible. Anyway, so coming to Japan has been wonderful. It's been an incredibly safe place for me to, like physically safe, for me to develop in a lot of ways. Now, the flip side of that is that the culture, there's no emotional and psychological and spiritual safety and security in Japan for anyone. For anyone. So this is how it works. If there's a rule, as long as you're not technically breaking the rule, you can be any kind of asshole that you want in Japan. And everyone in Japan knows this. And this is part of why there's this kind of rampant sense of shame that I kind of sense among, like, in other people. The cultures are cultures. All cultures are different to some extent. But human beings are going to be the same in many ways. And one of the things that we need is trust, like interpersonal trust and love and affection. And this culture has none of that. It's part of why it's in such rapid population decline. And this isn't a phenomenon that's unique to Japan, but because of its unique geographical structure and its culture, which has been allowed to develop like in this kind of xenophobic atmosphere, like it has an extremely acute case of the problem, or acute cases of the problems which most wealthy nations will encounter in time. Anyway, let's get back to why I'm leaving. It's a long, we're going around, but I promise we'll get to why. So I moved to Shinshiro. I also took time off from work in between switching jobs. Like, I gave myself an extended vacation of like basically a month and a half. And I drove from here in central Honshu, which is the main island of Japan, from here to Hokkaido. So that's a 3,000 kilometer round trip. You can do the math if you feel like putting it into miles. And I drove this trip, meaning I passed through a lot of Japan. And so what I found in that experience is that I had been laboring under a mistaken assumption. My assumption was that, I was moving from a slightly bigger city to a small city, and there's a word for rural in Japan, it's inaka. And inaka-poi, like places that are rural, have their own ways of life, and they basically, my assumption was if I give people time to get used to me, then maybe they'll start treating me like a human being. We'll get into how they don't know how to treat people like human beings later on, or in other videos, because I've got stories. Oh my gosh, have I got stories? Towards the end of the video, I'm gonna give you an idea of some of the titles I've got lined up. Anyway, going through different cities in Hokkaido, I came back and, digesting my experience after that slowly, I realized, wow, it's not that people aren't used to me, it's that this is just the culture of Japan. Like, people don't know how to interact with me and treat me like a human being. Most people here are just curious about me and interested in me, but they literally don't know how to approach me in a way that's healthy, like just for any kind of human interaction. Getting looked at is obvious. Like, I'm black in Japan. Obviously, people are gonna want to look at me, but people don't know how to not stare. And I live in a small town. Remember, small city, but it's 40,000 people on a good day. Like, this is small. So, when there's a black dude who speaks fluent Japanese, super friendly, happy to interact with people, word's gonna get around. And then people do the creepiest stuff here. Instead of just saying hello, they will literally try to get in my way. So if I'm in a supermarket, they will literally try to position themselves so that I have to say something to them in order to keep moving. It's incredible. People, if you're Japanese, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not, if you haven't experienced living here as any kind of not normal, you don't even have to be black for this. If you're someone who is curious or interesting or different, you will get stared at. You will get this kind of treatment on some level. But being black, I can't turn that stuff off. I can't turn that shit off. And this is gonna be my video, so I can start cursing if I feel like it. I can't turn that off, and I decided not to hide my shine. I'm pretty freaking awesome. I've worked very hard to be a great human being internally. And I've decided to stop apologizing for that in my way of life, in my way of being. So bringing it back to taikutsu, right? This is what we're talking about. Japanese people will do super annoying things just to get attention, or just to have some opportunity to interact with someone who's different. And being extremely different, it happens to me all the time. Basically all day, every day, right? As soon as I leave my house, it's not always the same people. Sometimes it's and it's not always the same kind of interaction, but I can count on Japanese people being weird about trying to get in some kind of interaction with me. And I usually just ignore it, because if you don't have the courage to say hello to me and I speak Japanese, why am I gonna waste my time interacting with you? Why do I need to be the one that says hello to you when I've got I don't care how free I am. There's better shit for me to do than like than be some kind of performing living exhibit for you. Like, I don't care how like positively you think about me. That's not how this works. Anyway, so people have done some really annoying things, and the thing is, I finally got used to it. That's when it became taikutsu. So what getting used to it to me means is no longer being annoyed or angered by it. And so as a black man, one of the emotions you have to master early on in life is your anger. You're even in situations where you have the right to be angry. I've kept my anger in unhealthily controlled most of my life. I finally, in this place where it's safe and I know that like I don't have to worry about physical harm, like I finally found healthy control of my anger, and healthy release of my anger, like letting it be what it is without having to turn it into something that it's not. Because I never initiate violence. So if no one else is going to, then everyone is perfectly safe. So my anger can just be what it is, right? Anyway, people will do really annoying stuff, and like even like they will do things that they know are annoying as long as it gets some kind of acknowledgement of their existence. And that's the thing that people want most here. The thing that they lack most here. There's no human interaction. There's no trust among people. You have the people who you grew up with, who you've known your whole life, and they've seen all of your messiness perhaps, but there's no ability to interact with new human beings. It's incredible in a healthy way. It's incredible. Anyway, um, so, so as I got more used to it, frankly, I realized I was gonna get bored. Like, so it's wonderful here. I live in a house. Like this is a either 3 or 4 bedroom house, depending on how you consider it. And my rent is low because I found a great place. Like if I turn the camera, you're looking out over farmland and there's like a bamboo forest to the right that I sometimes walk in. It's a wonderful area that I live in. And like I'm a 15-minute walk tops. New York speed, this is an 8-minute walk to the train. It's great. It's the people. And like I started to put down roots here. I was hoping to make this my home base, my nest of sorts, even if I decided to go on traveling. And then I got used to it and realized, wow, I would have to be prepared to live in this culture for the rest of my life. And this culture is I can say pretty definitively, worldwide, this culture is the one with which I bear the least affinity as an individual. I'm an open person. I love to flirt. I love to interact. I love to make people happy in my interactions. I love physical contact. That's part of why we've got Bucky here. This Bucky's been with me for years now. He lived with a friend of mine for a while, and that friend was gracious enough to send him back when I needed him. But yeah, Bucky. Like I love physical contact, and Bucky's one of the great ways that I don't live in need of physical contact. And so yeah, like I realized if I decided, I could follow through with just staying in Japan and doing all of the things that like people are excited to see me do, but then I would be subjecting myself to unnecessary martyrdom. Like there would no longer be any upside. Even learning from these annoying experiences is an upside. But then like once I've learned these skills and I'm no longer annoyed by what the bullshit they bring to me, well, then there's nothing that they have to offer me, like absolutely nothing. And people are like, well, like, what if you meet someone? And I've laughed in their faces. I am not getting married again. That's ridiculous. It's a joke. If I meet someone, then great. Like, I would love to meet a human who can interact with me like a human. I have yet to meet a Japanese woman yet who has been capable of it. Even among the cool ones who have like lived abroad. I please prove me wrong. So Anyway, taikutsu. So yeah, I have decided to leave. So let's get back to why it's not about the racism. Like, this is still the safest place in the world for me, physically speaking. And I'm extremely happy here. This is one of the great gifts that this experience has brought to me. Like, at different points in my life, I've had this sense of being my true self, like which I am now, and I've had internal stability. And usually it was as the result of some prescribed medication. And so I've had balance and I've had myself. And this is the first time in my life I've had both consistently without the use of prescribed medication or or smoking weed, which I freaking love, but I will not do in Japan because I don't trust anyone here. And so yeah, like, what a wonderful gift Japan has given me. I don't hate Japan. I don't hate my wife. I would like a clean break from my wife. I am looking forward to leaving Japan, but I'm not in a rush to leave. I'm staying, at this point, I'm staying because my business's first contract is a speaking engagement in Japanese. It's going to be a dialogue employing philosophy where I'm centering, and it's going to be about The Lion King. We're going to use The Lion King as our context to discuss philosophy and whatever the audience wants to talk about. I'm planning on filming it and putting it on YouTube, but it's going to be a while before it's translated, so if you feel like watching it in Japanese, have at you. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that's mostly it. It's really just taikutsu. And I mean, the other details are like my next stop is going to be India. There are several mechanical reasons why that's good for me, but more than anything, I just felt called in that direction, and that's how I'm going to roll from now on. I have pretty much secured my digital nomadic lifestyle, meaning my income through online sources, and so like I'm set. I'm good to go. Really, now it's just a matter of like whittling away the excess and just taking off. Let's see. So like, let's give you a couple of teasers for ideas for upcoming videos. One is going to be one is going to be titled, probably titled, Japan, where the men can stare at your dick before they can look you in the eye. It's going to be about my experiences being exoticized, and especially in public bathhouses. Okay, that's one. Another is going to be just about my wife and what I've learned about relationships here in Japan. I don't have a title for it yet, but really it's just going to be about like using and being used is all people know how to do here. There's no mutual like understanding. Like, I don't want to say no, that's super absolutist, but like, by and large, relationships are about using and being used. Let's see, what else have we got on deck here? Oh my gosh, there's just so much. I feel like I've got some Valentines in front of me. I got my first true Valentines, not from my wife. I didn't get a true Valentine, which to me is just like someone really just expressing love without an expectation of anything coming from it. My first true Valentines came from some middle school girls that I taught at like an international event. I was the central figure for like teaching them for a few hours. They weren't even real students of mine. But there was an activity at the end where they were able to make Valentines. A different teacher led that activity. I'm not into Valentine's Day. And they made Valentines for me. It's so friggin' sweet. I'll read them in the video. I may or may not read them. I will not tell you their names. But like, super sweet. Let's see, what else? I've already mentioned I'll tell you about my bag once we hit $500 a month. Let's see. I have to tell you about the time I made a grown man cry just by looking at him. Like, just by staring back at him. In Japan, people stare. but they do this creepy, everyone knows this, they do this creepy thing where they stare out of their peripheral vision. And like, because they have to have an excuse, they have to be able to say that they're not staring at you. When I reach my limit, which is like, I can feel being stared at. I'm from New York City. If I'm getting stared at, I'm a black man from New York City who was operated alone. Like, if I'm getting stared at, that means I need to be prepared for some kind of physical altercation. I avoid most of them by being aware of being stared at. And so people, like, it's called heiwaboke, and we'll get into this as well, which basically translates to like peace dementia. I was talking for too long, I guess. So yeah, peace dementia, and like they don't know when to stop staring. It's incredible. So, like, long story short, I made a man cry by staring back at him one time. And I know it was me that made him cry, because he pulled down his mask and showed me his tears later. I'll tell you the story. Anyway, thanks for watching. This was really long, but you're paying, so I feel like, you know, why not give you the goods? Thank you all so much. Until next time, peace.